Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to get your groove on as I catch you up to scratch on Wargroove, a game that sounds like Warcraft and Crypt of the Necrodancer had a romantic love child, but in reality has very little in common with either of those titles. A little bit maybe. For those of you new to Nintendo, Nindies, Pixels or Tactics games, Wargroove is a pixelated turn-based tactics game that is coming to Nintendo. The game is inspired by Advance Wars, as the developers noticed there is a massive gap since the last Advance Wars game came out, and they decided to fill it with their own game. Of course, they are advancing the Advance Wars genre by adding modern technology, a high resolution, more robust online play, things like that. Speaking of the developer, it's actually Chucklefish. Now they're most well known for their PC game, which might have come to other consoles at this stage, and that is Starbound, although you may have also seen them pop up on a number of other indie games you've been playing on your Switch. You see, they are the publishers for games like Stardew Valley, Pocket Rumble, Risk of Rain, so when you're booting up these games you may have noticed their little orange laughing fish pop up in front of you. These guys have only been around since 2011, but they've made a huge splash since then, so they're definitely a publisher and developer you should be keeping an eye on. And especially if you're a Switch fan. You see, their CEO, Finn Bryce, actually said on Twitter, "We'd like to support the Switch with everything we do going forward, if we can."
Ah! For Cherry Stone! Yeah!
Now, let's get back to Wargroove, and the question on everyone's mind at the moment is, how far away is Wargroove? And to be honest, we're not 100% sure. You see, the game was actually announced back in February 28th of 2017, and we're set to be coming sometime later that year. However, as is the case with Nindies, it's sometimes hard to track exactly how long your game is going to take, and I think the game has massively expanded upon the scope that they originally designed the game for, as you'll kind of see as we get further into the details of what the game has become. Now, up until recently, it was kind of hard to tell how far this game was away, as it just kind of kept getting pushed back and pushed back. But recently, we had a little bit of an update here from Katie from Chucklefish's marketing, who says on a Reddit post, "We're now in the final stages of development, preparing for Q&A. Then once that's all wrapped up and we're happy with the game, we'll be doing platform submissions. As we're publishing the game on multiple platforms, PC, PS4, Switch and Xbox One, there's quite a lot of work involved for each of these and coordinating timings. Which is why we don't want to announce a release date until we're 99.9% sure nothing will block it." Now that gives us a bit of a clearer picture on where they're at, although it's hard to tell if they're going to come across any bugs during Q&A, or maybe problems in submitting to the console manufacturers. So the earliest we're going to be seeing this is probably late 2018, although if I was a betting man, I would definitely be banking on early 2019. Alrighty, let's get into how the game plays. Now I mentioned before that it plays like Advance Wars, or that the developers intended it to play like that. But if you've never played that game before, you might be wondering what exactly it's like. Think of like Final Fantasy Tactics type gameplay, if you've ever played that, or maybe Fire Emblem, minus the RPG elements. The game itself is 1 to 4 players. That can be controlled by players or CPU. It has local multiplayer as well as online multiplayer. The players will pick from 1 to 12 commanders, who are these unique units that have what's called a groove ability, which I'm guessing is where they get the name Wargroove from. These commanders control the look of your unit. In other words, if you choose the tree class, you're going to have the tree units. Once you've picked a colour for your commander, the battle is ready to begin. The objective of this battle is to either kill the enemy's commander or destroy their base. Now that's the basics, but that's like describing Fortnite as a game about being the last one standing in a small circle. There's a lot more to this, and I'm going to go a little bit deeper here with you. Now the sub-aim of this game is to capture buildings. The more of these buildings you have, the more money you're going to generate each turn, and this money is used to purchase units from these buildings that you've captured. This is where the strategy really comes in. There's a lot of unique units. Now while they're unique in look, they actually play the same for each commander. That really levels the playing field, because the commander is the one kind of unique troop that you're bringing into this, and the rest is down to you and your strategy to beat the other player. Each unit has their strengths and weaknesses, so they might be super effective against one other type of unit or weak to others. But that's not all, there are other stats that contribute to what these units can actually do. Like dogs, they can travel far on the field and take out infantry fairly well, but when it comes to capturing buildings, it's just simply something they can't do. And then you have things like wagons, who can travel really far distances on roads to transport units. And there's also criticals, there's sea and air units. There's just a lot of layers to kind of peel away from this game that I'm not going to go into them all, but know that if you want to, it can go super deep. Don't get me wrong though, it doesn't seem to push away casual players. It just seems the type of thing that if you're a casual player coming up against an experienced player, you're definitely going to struggle. But a couple of casual people can jump into this game and still have a really good time. So that's the basics of the gameplay, but there's a lot of different modes that you're going to get into as you play this game. First of all, there's this single player mode. Now this has campaign mode, which is basically like your normal story mode. You're going to be following the character's stories. Then there's also an arcade mode. Now this, I'm not 100% sure what it is, but it's explained as explore motivations and personalities. So I guess this is the smaller side stories that you're going to be going through that don't follow the main overarching story of the game. And the last one here in single player is challenge mode. So I'm guessing they're going to be hard one-off challenges that require you to do more lateral thinking and less story and length driven. Then we have the multiplayer mode, which sounds like what I was describing before, against your friends or CPU opponents, and there's also rule customization in this mode. I don't know what rules you can customize, but it has been noted. Then we have custom content, which I wish I hadn't left it to this long to talk about, because this is kind of one of the most interesting things to me. It's kind of like Wargroove meets Mario Maker. You see, you're going to be able to make your own maps and campaigns. This is even on the Switch. This isn't some sort of PC exclusive like you would normally expect this type of things to be. Now, I won't get into the nitty gritty, but this gets right down to making your very own cutscenes, not just maps and the way they play out. These can also be shared with anyone, and as for another comparison, it kind of feels like RPG Maker for Attack this game as well. Now the lucky last one here that I've got is extra content. Now this is stuff like the gallery, there's a jukebox, and a codex, which is like characters, lore, and things like that. You actually unlock these as you play through the game. So there's a bunch of bonus stuff here, and I really like unlocking this type of stuff, so definitely something that I'm looking forward to.
I feel, I don't know, fired up. It's your groove, Queen Mercia. You've charged it for the very first time. Grooves are a gift. Commanders like you and I charge them as we battle.
With that out of the way, why don't you let me know if you're looking forward to Wargroove and if you're going to be getting your groove on. Now, as always guys, like button, subscribe button, you do you, and for everything Nintendo, stay tuned to Nintendo Everything.